Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. In my last video I talked about how I was doing a Briggs Stratton swap to this John Deere 316 that used to have an Onan B43E. I have the swap all done and I'm pretty much ready to fire it up. So what I wanted to do first was talk a little bit about a few problems that I ran across while doing this swap, as well as provide a couple of tips and tricks as well. So as far as problems, I had just a few minor issues with this. This kit comes with a new throttle cable and a new choke cable. I found that the throttle cable that they provide, the holes for mounting are not the same size or location as the original. So what I had to do to make that throttle cable work was I had to drill out the holes larger and actually one of them a little bit closer to the other to get it to work with the factory studs that are on the John Deere tractor. The next problem that I ran into was that the negative battery cable, where they tell you to mount it, ends up being too short if you try to use the original. And that's because the battery cable was mounted up higher on the Onan engine, and on the Briggs Stratton they want you to mount it down on the base of the block where the engine mounts to the tractor. I looked for a suitable place to mount it up higher on the tractor, but ultimately I just ended up going to the store and getting a longer cable because I figured it couldn't hurt to replace it anyway. Alright, so on to a few suggestions. I do recommend you remove the battery tray and this panel when you do this. It gives you a lot better access to the drive shaft bolts as well as the fuel lines and other stuff you have to deal with, such as the throttle and choke cables. Even though the fuel line should be long enough that the tractor has originally for the new engine, now's a good time to go ahead and replace the fuel line and the pickup inside the tank too. The pickups in the tank tend to deteriorate over the years, so you might as well just take care of it now. That way you're not doing any problems with the new engine later. The starter on the Briggs Stratton engine is actually on the opposite side as the Onan, so that you're going to have to move the positive cable for the starter over to the other side of the tractor. The original wire goes through a hole in a grommet on the left side of the tractor to get at the starter. The good news is that same exact hole is on the right side, so all you really need to do is pop the grommet out of the left side, put it in the right side, and then move this cable over, and the length is just fine. Alright, so like I said, I'm pretty much all ready to go with this. I haven't started it at all yet, so I do want to start it before I put the rest of the body panels back on just to make sure there aren't any issues. I imagine it'll probably crank for a little while the first time since the fuel lines are new. It'll take a little bit of time to get the fuel up through the pump and into the engine, so it'll probably crank a little bit. Other than that, hopefully it fires right up. Let's see what it does. Well, she fired right up and sounds really good, runs really good, so I think we're all done here other than putting the body panels back on. I'm really excited to actually get to use this thing. Alright guys, that's all I have for today's video. I'm going to go ahead and get this thing put back together, and the next time you see it, it should be a complete running tractor. Thanks for watching.